This is everything you need to know about Moho to start making animations as a beginner. Hi, I'm Suchit. I'm a motion designer. Let's get started. When you open Moho for the first time, you'll see a pre-made animation. You can play and pause the video from here. This rectangle is your camera. Everything inside it will be visible. You can toggle between camera mode by pressing Ctrl plus J. Let me select a bone. At the bottom, you can see the timeline. Here you have all your keyframes. Now to keep it very simple, remember two things, form and action. The way something looks, the artwork and the bones is the form. These things can only be edited at frame 0. Here, frame 0. Accordingly, you will see the tools on your left. So at frame 0, you see these tools. But if I move further, the tools change. After frame 0, you can alter the position and scale of bones and points to animate. Everything in Moho is context based. Hence, if you do not find a particular tool, check whether you are on frame 0 or not. This will save you a lot of time in the future and prevent you from creating unwanted frames. Let's clear all of this by going to File, New. We'll just delete this from here. Yeah. On your right, you have your Styles panel. Here you can change your fill, stroke, effects. By default, you will have layer 1. There are majorly two types of graphics, vector and raster. I used to think here also it's called scalar. The point being, there is no pixelation in vector graphics because they are formulas which when represented on a screen gives us graphs, or in this case, drawings. For example, this is the graph of tan x. You see these graphs? If I keep multiplying a number, let's say 10, they become somewhat straight. Let's go higher, 100. If I remove the 100 and add sin x, you see the graph changes. This is exactly how Moho works. Rasters on the other hand have pixels. The more you zoom in, the more pixelated the image gets. The layer 1 we saw earlier is a vector. Let's create a new vector layer. Click on new layer, vector. Let's rename it to test. In order to draw something, you will have to select a tool from the left toolbar. If you can't see these options, recall my previous point. You need to be on frame 0 to create any new form. So, go back to frame 0, select the shape tool and create a rectangle. Now, here is the curvature tool. Click on it. If I select it and drag it with my left mouse button, you can see how the shape changes. But all the points are changing at once. I don't want that. So to fix this, go to Select Points tool. With the Select Point tool, you can select individual points or multiple points by dragging, right? We select these 2 points. If I click individually, I can select individual points. Now when I use the curvature tool, I'm able to alter individual points. Now using the curvature tool, you can make any shape imaginable. I'm referring to these tools and manually doing everything for the sake of simplicity. It is always advised to use keyboard shortcuts. I'll link down a list of all the shortcuts in Moho. Again, saves a lot of time. Now what if I wanted to change the fill and outline color? Your instinct would be to, let's say I select this layer and change the fill from here. But wait, it's not changing anything. The reason is you have selected the layer, but we want to change the color of the vector. You have to select shape tool under fill, click on the vector, and now you can change the fill. I can even add gradients from here. Let's say I choose 2 colors. Let's say blue. Right? It's a terrible. Okay, let's make it a little better. Yeah. Gradient. You can change the direction of the gradient as well. See? So let's make our first animation. I'll clear all of this. Right? So we are on frame 0. I'll create a circle. Now let's add a gradient to this. Again, I'll go for the same gradient. Fill, effects, gradient. Here, let's choose something like this. And a darker shade of blue. Yeah. And this one more towards green, I guess. Yeah. Now let's go further in the timeline. Let's say 48, right? And I'll change the gradient to something like this. Now when I play the animation, we can see the gradient move in real time. Let's talk about stroke. Stroke means the border or the outline. So select the layer, stroke. You can change the color of the stroke from here. We can change the width of the stroke from here. Some effects also, if you want, let's say gradient or anything, you can add from here as well. Currently, no brush is selected. Like you can see, this is completely plain and ordinary. So we click on it, and from here we can choose different brushes. Let's click on it again. Yeah. You see, it's changing in real time. You can alter jitter angle, spacing, size variation, amplitude. I'll give you an idea how it works. Let's say jitter angle. You see the angle of the brush changes. Spacing between each individual brush stroke. Size, amplitude, variation. Like for example, somewhere it's thick, somewhere it's thin. If I increase it further, there is this ununiformity, right? A different brush. Get a better idea. Let's make it to 150. Yeah, I hope you get my idea. One interesting thing here is line boil. So when you enable line boil and click OK, you will get this. This property is called line boil. It tries to mimic inking in traditional animation, and you can create really cool effects with this. Let's reduce the width to, select this again, and let's reduce the width. Much better, right? You can change the width color to a dark brown maybe. Something which is not too harsh. Yeah. Okay. Let's create a new vector, right? Keep the stroke to white. Okay. And we can remove the brush completely. We need a sharp thing. Now we go to the pen tool and let's make a simple shape, like a highlight, right? I'm using the mouse, so it's not perfect. Now let's just change the gradient to a plain white color, and we can fix this. We can remove this point completely. You can delete any points you want. You can change it at any point of time, right? This is how it looks. It somewhat looks like a marble. To make it more believable, let's go to layer settings. Double click on the layer. This will open the layer settings panel. Here you can change the blur radius. You can see it's blurring a little bit. Opacity, like how much you want to make it visible. Even blending modes, let's say multiply. Screen is, yeah, we'll keep it on normal for now. And blur radius a little bit. Yeah. Okay. Let's go a few frames from here. Let's say at 48. With the transform layer selected, here you will see angle at the top. Let's increase the angle towards this side. And now let's play it. Yeah. Now it looks better. So it somewhat mimics what a marble looks like. This will help you understand how you can create different things in Moho. And here is your first animation, a marble. How do you export this beautiful piece of art? I'll be letting you know. You go to File, Export Animation, and from here you can change your duration and where do you want to save it. Let's say I want it on desktop. Click OK. And my animation starts rendering. Simple as that. And there you have it, your first piece of animation. Now let's talk a bit about project settings. Go to File, Project Settings. This will open up this. Here you can set the resolution, the frame rate, duration, depth of field, even the background color. Click OK. Now that you know how animation works in Moho, let's try to create a rigged object. For this video, we will start with animating a scene from my short film, You Are My Sunflower. I always advise to start from a pencil sketch, so let's draw a sunflower, a few petals, a disc and a stem. This looks decent enough. Let's take it to Moho. Once you have the file saved in your computer, go to New Layer, Image. Select the reference image and place it on the timeline. In order to scale or rotate the reference image, go to Transform Layer and set it nicely. Now double click on the layer to go into Project Properties. Here you can reduce the opacity and click OK. Now let's start animating. Create a new vector layer and name it stem. I'm using a rectangle to make the shape. You can see it's not quite matching with our artwork. What we can do now is go to Add Point tool and add a point, let's say here. Now if I go to Curvature tool and fix it, see, we are able to match it. Now select this shape using Select Shape tool and change the fill to a green and the stroke to a dark brown. I'll reduce the stroke and change the brush to something a little more artsy. Click OK and we are done with the stem. Let's make the yellow petals. I'm making this in one layer, but you can use as many layers as you want and make the petals individually. Now since it is facing us, we do not need to add sepals. We can only make a simple leaf and we are good to go. Rename every layer properly. Now select all of these layers and group them. Right click and select group with selection. You can see they're all in a folder. Now rename the folder to sunflower. Right click on it and convert to bone. Now we can add bones and rig it. You can see the change in icon. Here on the left you can see two options, select bone and add bone. Let's click on add bone. Go to the base and click once. This will be the root bone. Every other bone is connected to it. In case of making human characters, we place this bone at the pelvis below the spine. Now drag with your left mouse button to create one bone. We want it to move like a stem, so we will create two separate bones. Now you can see this bone is connected to the root bone. If I make another bone, then the second bone is connected to the first bone. If you want to connect the second bone directly to another bone, then before making it, press Alt and click the other bone. Now when you create the second bone, it is connected to your desired one. This will be helpful in making complex rigs like human figures. Now listen carefully. You create a root bone, then another bone for the stem, second bone for the stem, and one bone for the main flower. I've also added another bone for the leaf. Now once you have done all of this, you need to bind the bones to their respective vector layers. Select the stem, go to the bind tool and click on the bone. If it's confusing which bone to select, you can select multiple bones and then click bind. Let's bind our flower and then the leaf. And we are almost done. If I go ahead in the timeline and click on manipulate bone tool, you see it's distorting everything. Why is it happening even after binding? The reason is bone strength. We need to reduce the bone strength so the bone can only influence the respective layer. How do you do it? Well, it's pretty simple. Go to frame 0. You will see this bone strength icon. Click on it and drag it to reduce the bone strength. You can manually type in the box given above. When you keep the bone strength at 0, it will only impact the respective layer. We want that for now. So let's do the same for all the bones. Now let's go further in the timeline and try to use manipulate bone tool. Now we can see it move nicely. Let's animate this sunflower with wind. Select the main bone group and go to bone constraints. Enable bone dynamics and click on everything including wind. Now when you play this animation, the sunflower moves. You can change the direction and other properties of wind by clicking on the wind option. Let's say you want to create a zoom in. Click on track camera option. Go to the end of your animation. Reduce the value on Z axis and now you have a zoom in. Similarly, you can change these parameters for zoom outs and pans. Lastly, I'll just give a rundown on scripts. You can download more scripts from the internet. They're basically plugins which help you achieve more with the software. If you want to make rain, then select scripts, particle systems, and rain. You can select the transform layer tool and bring it up. Click on the particle layer and select particle options. Here you can change more properties of rain. Similarly, you can make snow and explosions in Moho. I know there's a lot more to Moho. We have smart bones, vertivian bones, switch layers and more. But this was a beginner's guide. Try making a few animations of your own and start posting them online. Tag me on Instagram if you post any of your work in Moho. I would love to see it. Once you are fairly comfortable with the basics of Moho, you can go on to advanced concepts. I hope you had fun watching this and you learned something new from this video. Thanks for watching. Take care.